Welcome to the Husband Hot Seat, where I interview men just like yourself going through marriage crisis, where their wives have said either, I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore, or I'm done, or I want a divorce, or there's somebody else. And we coach them on how to turn around their situation. My name is Dennis Crosby. I'm a marriage recovery coach, and I've worked with hundreds of men just like yourself, helping them turn around their marriage regardless of how bad it is. So let's hop into today's hot seat. So, welcome, sir, to the husband hot seat.
Great to
And
be here, Dennis.
yeah, I'm happy. You're my first person, and I'm really excited to dig in. My intention with this is to, through you, support other men who are in similar situations like you.
Great.
So, what we'll be aiming for here is we're just going to chat about your situation. And then based off of that, we're going to figure out what's the root of what's going on here. I'll connect whatever dots I can connect, and I'll give you some actionable steps moving forward.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Perfect. So why don't we just dive right in and let's start with something easy with how long you've been married?
8 years.
8 years. Okay.
Yep.
And did you guys know each other before that?
Yeah, we were together total of 13 years now.
Okay.
So about dated 5 years before that with a brief split up in there as well.
Mm. Gotcha. And was this your first marriage?
Yes, both of ours.
Okay. And give me an idea where you guys at like today. Are you dealing with separation, divorce, same bedroom, separate bedrooms? Where are we at?
So I work a 4 on 4 off.
Yeah.
So when I'm working, I stay at my parents, and then she has the kids 8 and 4 at the house. And then when I'm off, I have the house and the kids for
Yeah.
those 4 days. And then so there's a little bit of overlap, hey, I'm coming home from work on my last day. And then, we do have a little bit of time there.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes to her mom's.
Okay. So
So
kind of like
that's our
a situation.
yes, yes.
Okay. How long you been doing that?
About a month now.
Okay. You all right,
Yeah.
man? That can be really challenging.
It is challenging. You know, I'm doing a lot to like make myself better, right? Like no
Mm.
matter what the outcome is what I'm hearing everywhere, right?
Mhm.
Uh, no matter what happens out of this, I gotta be okay with myself
Yeah.
alone or with her, right? Like she's not gonna be able to depend on me. I'm working that step right now, and
Yeah.
it is challenging. I hate leaving the kids. I I hate leaving her. I wanna like seeing her. I want her to stay and talk more and figure
Yeah.
this out. But I'm probably not in the position right now
Mm.
to be ready for that, for her to see that I'm ready for her to come back, right?
Yeah. So around that topic, let's kind of walk me through what you felt led to this current state.
Well, I had been drinking probably, well, every day for at
Mhm.
least the last 5 years.
Okay. When
Uh,
you say drinking, are we talking about one
Alcohol.
bottle? Yeah, I know that. Like, are we talking
Yeah,
about
yeah, okay,
like
right.
one glass? We talking about a whole bottle? We talking about six pack? What do we mean here?
So, it was a progression. At the end, it was, I was drinking 3 handles a week, with work incorporated in that. I wasn't drinking at work, sober at work, but by the end of it, I'd, I'd have a flask in the car or something. So I'd be coming home buzzed.
So you
So
basically label functional alcoholic.
that's how I would label myself as. Yeah.
No, no worries. I'm used to
So,
many.
yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
Well, yeah, like when she dropped I want a divorce, and that was
Mm.
part of my self-help was, okay, I know that the alcohol is an issue. I knew
Yeah.
it was, but I was never willing to admit it enough to where I would take action on it. But so I started AA.
When you say
I've
it was
been,
an issue, how specifically was it impacting the marriage?
well, I mean, the arguments would be compounded, right?
Mhm.
Because I was always drunk at home,
Yeah.
always, right? So if there was a little argument, little something I was not doing or doing wrong,
Mhm.
I would take that as like an attack on me
Mhm.
and just like go off the handle, not physically, but definitely verbally, and um, took it to places where it didn't need to go based off of the criticism I was getting.
Mhm.
Right.
And I would
I
say those are probably the 2 biggest things when it comes to alcohol. It's either gonna be a heightened reactivity on your part, which makes communication all but impossible, or it's gonna be create disconnection because when you're in a drunken state, you can't really connect. So,
for sure,
mhm,
for sure. Yeah, I mean it was to the point I'm drinking on the way home. I would come in the door, avoid everybody so they're
mhm,
not smelling alcohol on my breath, go right
mhm,
to the fridge, crack a beer, and, start drinking the beer so that if anybody did smell anything, well, it was the beer I had. I was
uh,
hiding it. So she probably had no idea what
mhm,
it was. She's seeing this guy just sitting there, bump on the log all the time,
yeah,
not engaging with her, and or when we are engaged, it's down her throat, right? Like just yelling. But then there was good fun times too. It
mm,
wasn't all doom and gloom.
sure,
Uh I our sex life had been amazing even through her mentioning divorce until she moved out. So
mm,
we would still have moments of intimacy in the bedroom even after she said she wanted a divorce. I was like, well, I don't mind. Let's not ruin the one thing we know we're good at.
mm. Yeah, and
So
the one that just depends on the type of relationship, the dynamic between you 2. Some women are able to separate the emotional from the physical. There's this program called the Ride Blueprint that kind of breaks down all different
mhm.
eroticism and sexual types, kind of like love languages, but for sex.
Okay.
And one of the types is physical
Okay.
and like that primal, like I'm gonna get it in regardless of how I'm feeling. Like that's what they care about. So that is not uncommon for women to still want to continue on having sex post talking about it, but it's also probably far more common for it to not happen. So,
Right.
okay, so she came to you, said she wanted a divorce. We know what the alcohol did. Was there anything else that she brought up in terms of the issues?
Just me not having her back in situations. I mean, the straw that broke the camel's back was a fundraiser dinner uh, for her adoption agency that got her from Colombia into the states and with her mom, right? And it was a fundraising dinner for that, and we got in a little argument, and I bailed on the situation. I didn't want to go to the dinner, so I bailed on her on that. So, and there have been numerous other occasions where we'd be out having fun, and she would want to go do something more, and I would be like, "No, I'm done," and then just leave
Yeah.
because I was done. It was a me decision, right? So I was never like looking out for what she wanted in those scenarios.
What do you believe those actions of ejecting from there did to her? How you feel like it impacted her?
Well, as she says, um, and she says that she learned to be able to live without me.
Mm,
So, and I can understand why, right? And I was deployed in the Navy for a year from May
mm,
2022 to June 23. So she
yeah,
had the kids alone, and that kind of solidified some of her viewpoints as well.
sure.
And
Like,
then when I come back
questionable.
and I'm still acting that way, there's no change in the year after I got back,
Yeah.
if not got worse.
Mhm.
My drinking got worse, and my outward emotion to her but
Mhm.
got worse. It just solidified that in her head. Abandonment, right?
Mm,
So her view on this is she had to get adopted from Colombia. Otherwise she would have been an orphan in
yeah.
Colombia. She
Mhm.
catches she catches her dad cheating on her mom when she gets off the bus one day, and then at 11 years old. So now her dad leaves, the family just totally abandons the family. So now
Mm,
her mom's raising three kids alone.
yeah.
And so, and then I come in and everything's good, but now I start these little
Mhm.
things where I leave at, in the middle of XYZ party here, or I don't show up to that adoption fundraiser.
Yeah.
Now I'm abandoning her. I'm the
Yeah.
one that's causing the same shit she's had to deal with her whole life,
Yeah.
and I'm just another guy in her life doing bad things to her now.
I'm impressed that you saw that. You made connected the dots. I can tell you've really been thinking about this.
And I've been thinking clearly.
Yeah.
I've been sober for 47 days now, so
Yeah.
I'm happy about that, and I've been able to, like, yeah, there's still a fog. It's not
Mm.
going to go away for some time, but the physical withdrawal symptoms are gone, and I'm able to just get through a day and not really have to. I'm not even thinking about reaching for a drink, which is amazing.
Nice. So I understand what's going on here. Is there any other specific issues in the marriage that we haven't covered that I need to know about?
I mean, other than like we've already started mediation,
Yeah.
and our next appointment is Wednesday. So it's like, not only are we not living together, we're she's pushing forward on this, and
Mm.
that's like really our only communication is, is it the kids,
Yeah.
or is it what's going on with mediation and the divorce process? So
Live communication going.
I mean, so initially, no, it was like, no, please, but well, I'm changing. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm going to counseling, and I'm going to AA. I'm staying sober. I can do this. I can change. Begging and
No.
pleading
Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't work. But at least I don't know. I
Yes.
felt better telling her that I'm
Yeah.
changing, but
Yeah.
it only like made her dig her heels in more. Like, no,
Mhm.
we're going to mediation, and I want a divorce, not a separation, because that's what I was kind of pushing. Like, if we're going to do this, can we at least just do a separation for legally purposes? Like,
Mhm.
but
Does she
she's
work?
like, no. What's that?
Does she work?
Yes.
Okay. Is she self-sufficient? Like after a separation, should be or divorce should be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. She'll be all right.
Okay.
I mean, we own this house, so she's going to get half the equity, and that'll help her. Um, and then child support will help as well.
Got
So
it. Okay. And I guess walk me through other than the AA, like what are you currently doing to work on things?
I've seen a therapist,
Okay.
um, probably twice a week. We meet. She gives great like feedback to, not fix my relationship, which I'm missing that. I want that part of it. But she's like, no, I'm here to fix you. And we're not here to, I know it's not manipulating, but like, we're not here to manipulate her to get back with you. And I respect that. And I know that's not what you're doing either, but
Yeah.
there's another side of it that needs to fit in where,
And that's super common when it comes to therapy. Like it's great to give you a place to build awareness of your own patterns, habits, maybe some self-sabotaging tendencies, maybe some of your own baggage you're bringing to the table, right? It can be incredible for that. It is usually not so helpful when it comes to, okay, but how do I get the working on myself part, but how do I actively work on the marriage, right? How I
uh,
work on reconciling. And that's kind of a gap that I find a lot of people run into when it comes to therapy. And the therapist who will usually isn't the greatest advice. They're like super hit or miss the advice they will give you. But
yeah.
yeah, okay. So we said therapy, we said AA. What else are you doing?
I mean, reading, podcast, like all of this stuff is centered around like, you know, self-improvement. Uh,
Right.
and following you on Facebook has been awesome. Watching those videos you have posted there. I don't know if it like just helps me get through some dark times, but it gives me hope that, there is a way to make it work. Right. So if I do the work,
Hmm.
then it'll work. Right. So, and even if it doesn't, it's going to prepare me better for the next relationship.
Sure.
So
Sure.
like it could go either way right now.
Hmm.
And mentally, I'm preparing myself for the worst,
Yeah.
no expectation that it's going to work, but with
Hmm.
the outcome that I will have other relationships where this will benefit from. Even
Yeah.
if it does work, I can use
Sure.
it.
Investing in yourself, investing in growing yourself, really working on becoming the best you will always pay dividends
Yes.
regardless. Right. I do find a lot of men will fall into this. I'm just going to do it for me camp. I feel like they're usually lying to themselves to a certain degree because asking those same people, yes, they want their wives back. And it's okay to acknowledge that. Doesn't make you weak saying that I do want to become better and I also want my wife back. It's okay to have those two desires. And also have that healthy perspective that, okay, maybe if it is too late, I can still benefit from this. I can still go to that next level and bring it into my next relationship so that I don't at least repeat this problem.
Right.
So I guess another thing I want to speak to because you're at the kind of in game in that red zone of like you're actively working on divorce, right? That's about
Yes.
as get for the most part. And I know in those situations, it becomes harder and harder to have that hope of being able to turn it around. Right. And I like to say this that no matter what, no matter what situation you're in, I can promise you there's been a man who's been in your same situation or
Mhm.
worse, who has turned it around.
Yes.
Don't get too caught up in the question of if it's still possible. Focus on the question of, am I willing to become a man who can turn this around? Am I willing to do what it takes to turn this around? Because
Right.
that's a more empowering question. When you ask, is it too late? It disempowers us. It makes us shrink. It makes us fear. It makes us look at the situation and see, hey, is this actually possible? But when you ask, am I willing to come? It focuses you back on what you're able to control. It focuses on your
Yep.
gaps, your strengths, the ways that you need to show up differently to actually shift it. It gives you a better chance at actually turning it around. Right. So that's the first thing I would give to
Mhm.
you. Make sure you're asking empowering questions of yourself.
Okay.
Okay. So around this abandonment and objecting out of things, have you communicated those realizations to her?
Not in the best way.
What do you mean?
Like, I know I screwed up. Like when she would say it, I know I messed up, like, yeah, I know, like as
Mm.
she's feeding me with it, right?
Yeah.
Like how she felt in those moments. I know, I'll do better. Right. Like that
Yeah.
was more of like the first week or when she told me,
Yeah.
like I knew it
Mhm.
was wrong in the time, but it wasn't
Right.
like, oh, she's going to leave me because of this.
Yeah.
And now to hear her actually say it, I
Yeah.
was like, well, damn, yeah, I know I've been a dick, but like I can flip it around 180, right? Like here I
Yeah.
go. And there's no trust that I can sustain this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So circling back to the abandonment piece, because abandonment is one of those core wounds, right? Then there's a handful of core wounds, usually abandonment, not good enough. Um, Most of them come down to not good enough, especially for men. For women, abandonment's a big one as well. And especially that ties to her father, which is a central figure in her life, a central figure around how a man should be, right? And it creates that inner safety for her. And for women, safety is huge, right?
mhm,
It's the number one thing, right? So her already being wounded around safety is definitely going to create a stronger reaction to those things because she's not interpreting you leaving, doing all those as her father leaving again. Right. And that creates like a deep hurt. And those deep hurts can be very hard to overcome and very hard to build that trust back again. So the first step I would give you around peace is to give her a sincere apology and acknowledgement of those actions,
Hmm.
right? Of saying like, hey, I've been reflecting on a lot of things. And I'm not saying this to try to change anything. I just want you to know I realize that these times where I left you by yourself probably really hurt you. And I can only imagine that it reminds you of when your father left. And I am so sorry for inflicting that kind of damage on you. And I just ask if you could please forgive me for it or something like that. Right. And this is very specific because you want to make sure you show her that you're not doing it to try to change anything. Right. And that you're not saying in the future, I'm going to never do this again.
Okay.
Assuming like reconciliation is just going to be purely asking for forgiveness.
Okay.
And you may find that opens up a conversation. She may
Right.
come defensively, like, I don't even care anymore, blah, 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 blah. And that's okay too. It's more about the communication than the response.
Okay.
The communication may create an opening for a response, but don't worry too much about the response. You'll likely get nothing, but you may also get some defensiveness, or you might actually get some openness, but she'll get it one way or another. All right. So
Okay.
that's thing two, I think we're up to now. Uh, Another piece, let's talk about the consistency component because I see this a lot when dealing with guys with alcohol histories, right? And what makes that particularly challenging is that even if you go 2, 3, 4, 5 years without drinking, in the back of their mind, it can always come back because there's that global belief of it being like a disease.
Hmm.
I mean, you're living with the rest of life. So something you can always slip back. And then what happens 10, 15 years from now when we're back together doing all this kind of stuff and then it comes back around? Like how I deal with that.
Hmm.
That is one that is uniquely difficult when it comes to addiction type things. And the only real way around it, I can't even say around it, but to support you with it, other than just getting some time under your belt, which is great that you're doing that. But really showing a higher degree of personal transformation to the point where it becomes hard to imagine you can actually go back. So, what that can look like is really understanding the root causes of the alcoholism,
Right.
like making sure you deal with those root causes using whatever modalities are required. So, maybe that's work through your therapist, maybe that's working through some other things, maybe that's going to intensives, like whatever. Once you identify that root, actively working on that thing. So people will have a belief that what was driving it has been taken care of. That can help. And also just showing up at a high level where they're like, it almost comes hard to imagine you ever drinking again. So that bar gets raised a lot higher when you're dealing with addiction.
Okay.
That make sense?
Yeah. It makes sense. It's just, yeah. So how do you show that when you're not around the person?
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, actually do the work of finding the root and fixing the root. Right?
Mhm.
So that's actually the bigger priority is doing that versus
Mhm.
trying to show her that you're doing it, right?
Right.
But more of your focus on actually doing it versus trying to show her you're doing it. But once you're through it or you're navigating with that, because they don't really want to hear about the process. This is a big thing. They don't want to hear about your process of change. They want to just experience the change.
Right.
I mean, that's ultimately what they want. They're tired of words. Words mean nothing at this point. They see it. They need to feel it. So number one priority is actually changing. Now, if you want to try to bring her in at some point, what I would recommend is doing something like, man, I just went through this and this whole thing. I just realized that behind X, Y, and Z was this, this, and this. And just wanted to share that with you because you're important to me and you had to deal with this. I just want you to know. Or something like that, where you're not asking for a response. You're just
Right.
updating with
Okay.
something. You can do something like that or another variation of that if you want to do more of like an engagement type thing. It's like, wow, I just realized I would do X, Y, and Z, right? Out of curiosity, did you ever experience that from me? And then she's like, yes, obviously. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And now I'm now finally seeing it. And I
Yeah.
realized, man, I was an asshole. I was a dick for doing that. I'm just sorry that you had to do that. And if she's shown
Mhm.
that and certain openness to that conversation, then you can dig a little deeper and say something along the lines of, yeah, can you give me, I'm curious, like, what was that experience like for you? Like having to deal with that? Like, how did it impact you?
Mhm.
Be able to get her to open up. Now, these aren't tactics. So please, like, it's just ways that you can approach conversations. Because in
Okay.
any, she may give you nothing back. She may give you defensiveness and criticism back, or she may actually open up. And all of them are okay because you're not doing it for a response. You're doing it just to share part of your journey. If you decide to do that, you can also not share and just change. Both of them are fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So another piece, and it kind of goes to the abandonment thing, but I want you to make sure you're clear on those behaviors that you were showing, right? Particularly when you were leaving, not supporting all that. What that's really showing her is that she's not a priority to you.
Mm.
And that's one of the core reasons why women leave, right? There's four. One of them is not being a priority. The other is not being safe. The other is not being led and also feeling like you're dependent, right? Which alcohol tends to make her feel like you're dependent. So it hits that one too,
Mhm.
right? And then the last one's like disconnection. So
Oof.
yeah, those are usually the core four. Pretty much
Oh,
everyone can fall into one of those.
check, 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 and check.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you look at it, right? Like if I'm just sitting here, we're not connecting. I'm dependent because nobody else is doing anything around the house because I'm just sitting here. She's leading. She doesn't feel safe because when she does call me out on my BS, I go right back at her so she can't express herself and not being a priority. I check all of those off. So
Yeah. Yeah. And then, no, when you look at it through that lens, it's no surprise why they're leaving, right? And at least it gives you a lens to know what things you need to elicit to get her to open back up, right? So figure out of those four things, which one is the biggest hit, and then find the opportunities that she will give you to show up in those areas,
right.
right? Well, we say like the dependent one, right? Well, essentially, you're a boy, you're a child. She has to be a mother to you. Essentially, what that comes down to, right?
Mhm.
And maybe there's some stuff happening with the kids, or maybe the kids need something, and you just make sure you show up for that. Maybe there's a clerical error or something, or a legal matter, or some bills that went unpaid for no reason other than something just happened. And you stepping up, you leading in those areas. Maybe with like you guys, I imagine, need some kind of co parenting plan post the mediation. Maybe you take initiative on that.
Mhm.
Here's one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. Taking initiative on supporting the process of like separation does not necessarily mean you're endorsing it.
Right.
Right? You just have to be selective about what you do. So your general stance is always going to be like, I don't want this, but I'm not going to get in your way. That,
Mm.
that's that's like the ground level floor. Now, as you're moving forward, there are certain things logistically that just have to be taken care of by not getting in the way. One of those things is like what's happening with the kids. How do we tell the kids? How are we going to where the kids going to live? What's the agreement of separating time? All those types of things. You can lead in that area because that needs to happen. Somebody needs to lead, right? And that shows that you care about those things. You're going to show up around the things that are important. It doesn't mean that you're not like that you're suddenly okay for the divorce. You're just picking an area where, okay, this is important since this is where we're headed. I need to make sure this is okay. And you're going to lead there. So
Right.
there's still opportunities to do these things, even through that process. And there's going to be tons of opportunities throughout the just life as well. Right? You guys are splitting time. You have the kids, or sometimes she has the kids. Sometimes there's going to be communication, logistics, things will come up. So really just keeping that lens going of like, okay, what are some ways that I might be able to show her she is a priority still for me? Right? How can I communicate that? What are some actions, some behaviors that could show her that she's still a priority given where she's at right now? And you may have to put your thinking cap on. You may be creative about that, depending on how far removed you two are. Right. But in each of those categories, there will be opportunities. And you just have to work within the situation you're in. And the more wins that you stack up, the more likely or the more opportunities she will give you. Does that make sense? Is
Absolutely.
that helpful?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of homework now.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, getting creative in all four of those. Like I just wrote all four of those down and then wrote how next to each one. Like how what does that look like for us, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I gotta sit and think about it and
Hmm.
really, you know, focus on making that, sustainable too, not just like grand gestures, right? Like sustainable action that I can incorporate to who I am as a person, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions you have for me around anything we talked about?
No, I mean, this has been super beneficial, or even just opening up to another person about it, you know, builds my comfort in being able to talk about something that, a lot of people view as very, very sensitive, and for any of the guys watching or listening, you're not alone.
Mm, yeah.
We're out
Abs-
here.
Absolutely. I see hundreds and hundreds of men. And you trust me, I want you to go out there. You're not alone.
Yeah,
Because
we're not.
our Facebook group has, God, it's going to be close to 10,000 people. So, and they're all going through the same thing. So you're absolutely, absolutely
Yeah.
not. Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you spending time with us today. And I wish you the best of luck turning things around. And feel free to follow up with me, shoot me an email or anything if you have any questions about anything we talked about. That was today's hot seat. Hopefully, you took away something that's going to help you in your situation as well. And if you're looking for more guidance, tools, resources, programs, support, things to really help you save your marriage, go to husbandhotseat.com, where you'll find that, a whole lot more, and you can even book a hot seat session of your own with me. So go ahead and head over to husbandhotseat.com and let's go get you your marriage back too. Take care.